Hello and welcome back. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. We're going to have a very practice-centered discussion today. I mean, really, really practice-centered. And it's based on one of your questions from the comment thread right here on YouTube. So I thank you very much for the question. And I just want to say before we launch into it that I invite these questions here. This is a perfect space to ask questions because spirituality, quite frankly, raises questions. Studying this course raises questions. All of spirituality, no matter what the tradition, is a process of deep, deep self inquiry. So they're bound to arise, and they're more than welcome here. And as we go through the text of A Course in Miracles, I'm always, always more than willing to take a pause out of that procession because the text will still be there when we get back, waiting for us. Yeah, I'm very, very interested in what's coming up for you live. So I appreciate the question. And yes, I acknowledge that it's a public forum and people can read all of these. And so it's very, very important that if we have these questions we ask, because not only do we benefit, but we benefit everyone else. And the questions that seem to be what you might consider basic or beginner questions are quite often the best. They are. They're the best because it could be that someone who's been studying and practicing this course for 27 years, all of a sudden, based on your question, has an aha moment and gets it. You don't know that. You don't know that, but count on the fact that when you all ask questions here and that they wind up here being talked about and broadcast, you're benefiting many, many people all over the world. And it's huge. So there are all different levels of experience watching the broadcast. There are people that are 20 to 30-year plus course veterans, so to speak. And there are people that have just picked this up. They're newer, everything in between. And there are many people here that are drawn to this content by their inner teacher, who is our inner teacher. If you want to know why you're clicking this and watching, it's the Holy Spirit speaking to you. So please stick around. There are plenty of people actually that watch these videos all the time that are not course students. There's still something to be gained from listening to the message of our inner teacher. So for doing that, I thank you. So here's the question, and it's a great, great question. How do I know that I'm listening to the Holy Spirit? Because there may be a whole lot of stuff going through our minds. Great question. So let's talk about that. And as we do, let's talk about it from a very, very practical standpoint. And that's really where we learn, after all, in spirituality, is by putting these ideas that we're studying and reading about and talking about into practice. That's how we do it, for sure. I mean, that is how we learn. Our experience demonstrates to us that these ideas are true. So there's a lot going on in the world. Understatement. It's true. There's a lot going on in any arena of life. And what we do here in the world is we fill our calendars. We write out massive to-do lists that can overwhelm us to the core. And we're being pulled constantly, it seems, in multiple different directions. Seems like there are days where everyone is clamoring for our attention. If you have kids, the kids need your attention. If you've got a dog or a cat, yeah, the animals need your attention. Your business needs your attention. Your email needs your attention. You know, the phone's ringing, you've got a bill to pay, you want to get to the gym, but you don't know if you're going to make it because you've got a 10 o'clock and a 10:30, and you got to do this task and this task and this task around the house. And, well, how about my social media thread? Oh, I'm absorbing someone's negativity that they posted just because they have a global forum to do so, and they can, so they do. Yeah, and we're just being constantly bombarded. It's where we appear to find ourselves. So it's no small wonder that we're stressed out, quite honestly. I mean, look around, look at the way that we conventionally live our lives. I mean, even if you're retired and don't have a job or anything like that, you still fill your time. I mean, we all do. There's always something occupying our mind. So it's no wonder that we get overwhelmed, stressed, and it's a perfectly legitimate question to ask, okay, I'm hearing lots of noise. What is the Holy Spirit in all of this noise? Okay, so because our minds are racing almost all of the time, this is the very reason why meditation is a thing. It is not just in this tradition, but in so many different spiritual traditions worldwide. Meditation practices, mindfulness practices are a thing. If you've ever wondered why so many of these exist, it is for this exact reason, to calm the mind. That's why they exist. That's why here in A Course in Miracles, specifically in the workbook for students, there are practice periods with instructions to do every so often throughout the day. Those are meditation practices. The goal of meditation is not to sit calmly without thinking for as long as you possibly can, ignoring all physical discomforts, the cat, the dog, the kids, your email, yada, yada, yada. It's to bring your awareness, even if only for a fraction of a second, to the present moment. This is the only moment that we have, which sounds really obvious in the context of this video, but yeah, we would all readily acknowledge that the past is gone, the future's not yet here, yet where do we live almost all of our lives? Right. In the past or the future, we worry about yesterday, or we fret. We worry about something that has not yet come to pass, and quite frankly, may never come to pass. Yet we are not present because we're off wondering about it and stressing ourselves out, I might add. So, a meditation practice, a mindfulness practice, returns our awareness to the present moment, which is all we have. It is in this moment that we decide. It's where we make decisions. To simplify all of our decisions, there's only one decision. There are exactly two options. Every moment of every day, we choose one or the other. We choose the Holy Spirit or the ego, God, ego, light, dark, life, death. Yeah, you could see it that way. Yeah. Truth, illusion, self with a capital S, lowercase s, self, ego, self-sustaining survival unit, me. Yeah. We make this choice every moment of every day. So let's be present for it. That's what this course emphasizes. So, however you practice this kind of returning your awareness to the present moment, that's up to you. And there are many different ways to do this. When I teach a workshop in person or virtually, I often start with a guided meditation, but I will tell you why I don't do them here on this series of videos, is because I want you to do them. It's between you and your inner teacher. It is. We all undertake this self-study curriculum under the guidance of our inner teacher. So whatever a meditation practice looks like for you, whether you use an app such as Insight Timer, or whether you use guided meditations, or whether you simply sit quietly and pay attention to a couple of different rounds of breath, it can be as short and as simple as one single in and out breath. The purpose of all of this is to calm the chatter. Just let the chatter be for even a fraction of a second. Now, if you let it be for a fraction of a second, you know where I'm going with this. You're invited to let it be for another fraction of a second, paying attention to one in and out breath begs the invitation to keep breathing and pay attention to that second breath. Oh, and then you might undertake a third, and perhaps that's all you have time for. This can be done anywhere, anytime. Why is it important to calm the mind? That's when we hear the voice for our inner teacher the best. The Holy Spirit does not force. This is very, very important. So if we're frantic, he's going to wait patiently until we're less frantic or until we're not frantic at all. So whatever a returning to the present moment practice looks like for you, I invite you to pay special attention to that. It is with a calm, or at least a calmer mind, that we're better able to make decisions, which is true in all of life, after all. And that's when we can most hear the voice of our inner teacher. Now, this may look very, very differently for you than it does for someone else. Our inner teacher communicates in many different ways. And this list that I'm about to rattle off is not exhaustive at all. That's far from it. But not everybody hears a spoken voice in a language that they can understand. It doesn't always work that way. In fact, it often is not that way. The Holy Spirit can communicate with you through a feeling, or you may just have a sense, a deep inner knowing. Perhaps you can relate to that. Call it an intuitive hit. Call it a very strong and very certain direction. It could be something that someone says. It could be what pixelated image on your screen appears to say. Could be that. It could be something that someone else says. It could be something that you read that makes the light go on, where you just know. Could be something that you look at in the world that appears to be outside of us. It could be a bird or a flower, or it could be a billboard. Frankly, if you're driving down the highway, it could be any number of things. The Holy Spirit has use for them all, so there are many different ways that he communicates with us. A very good indicator about whether you're listening to the Holy Spirit or the ego is, how do you feel? I mean, really, if you feel stressed out, if you feel upset, angry, like blaming, judging, like you want to pick up your cell phone and go on social media and post an F-bomb laced tirade just because you can, if you want to rant, yeah, anger, rage, want to show somebody up, yeah, want to get back at someone, feelings like that. Or it could be sadness or anxiety. You could feel depressed. Anything that is not wholly joyous not only is an opportunity for true forgiveness, but it's also a very clear indication to us all that we're listening to the ego voice, this voice that wants you to stay small, that wants you to go back to the way things were, because wouldn't it be more comfortable? And then you think, well, no, it wouldn't, because I'm on this path in the first place because I was sick of your so-called comfort, right? It's why we all appear to find ourselves here. So it's a very present moment thing to pay attention to. It does. This is why this awareness is so key. It is. It's very, very important because we're habituated to listening to the ego. We're conditioned to listen to the ego. So we do. And it brings us, when you really look at it, maybe some blissful, hot, sexy moments. But I mean, they're out there for sure. Yeah. But ultimately, they don't last. And the ego brings you right back to pain and suffering. Now, you do have another voice that you could choose to listen to. When, and we're talking, how do you feel? Paying attention to our feelings right now in the present moment. A very helpful question that you could ask yourself is, how am I feeling? Anything that's not joyous. I mean, and I mean completely joyous, happy, loving, forgiving. Anything that's uncomfortable in any way is an indication that we're listening to the ego, and it's an opportunity to forgive. It is very important. If you feel completely joyous, wholly, totally joyous, loving, limitless, that is an indication that you're listening to the Holy Spirit. And it's an invitation, when you recognize it, to continue to do that. In recent videos, we've talked quite a bit about setting the goal of every situation in life as truth. We weren't taught this in school, of course. They taught us about human biology and mitosis and meiosis and the Krebs cycle and mathematics and literature and languages and history and stuff like that. They didn't teach us any of this. So spirituality, of course, does involve an unlearning in a lot of different ways. We're invited to set the goal of every situation in life as truth. Every phone call, every email written or answered, every walk with the dog, every situation, every relationship. The goal is truth. I don't mean simply just your intimate personal relationships. I mean all of them in every context, business too, neighbors. The goal is truth. Set the goal as truth, and the means fall in line. We set the goal as truth. We invite the Holy Spirit in. We invite our inner teacher into the situation to run the show. And we step aside and do our very best not to interfere, and watch as the means fall in line perfectly without, I might add, any added effort on our part. Set the goal of every situation as truth, and let the Holy Spirit run the show. You will be instructed as to what to say, what to do, if anything. And it is this practice that we come back to over and over again. It's worth doing. And you might find your mind racing, saying, well, how can that even be? Well, there's only so much that we can figure out with the intellectual thinking mind. This intellectual thinking mind that we so adore and bow down to and worship here in the world. Well, yeah, and that would make sense because the intellect is reductive. The thought system of the Holy Spirit is not reducing, it's not reductive, it's not incisive, and it does not slice and dice. It is whole, it is total. The intellect slices and chops things, experience, into multiple component parts, all of them appearing to be separate. So it's quite natural that there's only so far the intellect can take you. We're invited to go beyond that, and you most certainly can. And you most certainly will encounter resistance here. That is a natural part of the spiritual path. So when we encounter resistance in any form, we're invited to recognize that it is the ego that resists. And we're invited every moment of every day, whether we're experiencing resistance or not, to get in touch with the Holy Spirit, to invite the Holy Spirit in, to pray if you want to pray, to address the Holy Spirit specifically. Do that, do that. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. That is the way that we learn this course the best. We do it under the guidance of our inner teacher. So when you remember to do it, ask the Holy Spirit for guidance. I mean, and if it looks like talking to your inner teacher specifically, do that. I can't say, I simply can't emphasize enough how important it is, how transformational, I mean, really transformational, a game changer. I cannot emphasize how much it is so important to set the goal of every situation as truth. Invite the Holy Spirit in and stand aside. And we're fond of saying here in the world, that's a game changer. Well, it is. And we're all invited to do just that. So I hope that you have found these past few minutes helpful as a practical matter. And again, I really, really thank you for the question. This is an excellent question, and they all are. So if you have specific questions, I am more than willing to record a standalone video or two or three or a dozen, however many it takes to address the topic, because I'm very, very interested as a guide for you in what's coming up for you live. And there's always, always room for that. In fact, it's an integral part of spiritual practice. So I thank you for asking. If you have questions, please feel welcome to type them out here in the comment thread. I do look at those just about every day, so I will see them. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do that. We'd love to have you join us. The prompt is here. It's that arrow in the corner of your screen. So click that and you'll be invited to join us. It is a growing community. It's international. Thank you to all of you who have recently joined. There have been a number of us. And well, we have several videos that appear each week. So thank you again for tuning in, and I will talk to you all very soon.